and Beatriz Martins, Carolina Ganchas, Margarida Cruz, Mariana Santos, Rafaela, Marques e Sara Botelho. As meninas são alunas, né, que finalizaram esse ano a licenciatura na Faculdade de Belas-Artes da Universidade de Lisboa, também colaboraram no Laboratório de Conservação e Restauro de Gesso. Elas farão uma apresentação sobre o pórtico manuelino dos 500 anos da morte do Manuel do Convento dos Loios, né, que faz parte do acervo da Reserva da Faculdade de Belas-Artes da Universidade de Lisboa. Então, por favor, podem iniciar sua apresentação.
Thank you. Good afternoon for all the present and for ones that are online. I would like to thank you for having us here and for accepting our proposal for the presentation. And a very special thanks for our teacher, Professor Marta, for giving us the opportunity for being here and all the knowledge that we managed to obtain after having all of these years in our studies. The project that we are here to present to you is named after a pórtico that we had a few casts here in the storage, and is manuelino porcelain from the 500th anniversary of death from Dom Manuel I, from the Loios Convent of the Faculty of Fine Arts of the University of Lisbon, plus the sculpture storage. It's a short presentation about the work that we did in the last semester during the lockdown, which caused the delay and make it impossible to conclude, but gave us the possibility of being here. So hope you like it.
Before starting our presentation, we are going to do a quick historical context of the plaster cast study. This project focuses on a plaster cast of a stone portal that is located in the Convento dos Loios in the city of Reserva, here in Portugal. The granite and marble portal has typical ornamentation from manuelino, as well as ornaments found in leisure art, which is why it's called morte. The portal is attributed to the Hood brothers by several authors and is dated to the 16th century. We believe that the plaster cast of this portal, that belongs to the Faculty of Fine Arts, University of Lisbon, was made in the early 20th century, 1915, when Venancio Rodrigues and art professor went to Reserva to make several monuments in that city. The plaster portal has the exact same dimensions as the stone.
We started the condition report of the pieces with research, pathology mapping, and methods of examination and analysis. During the search for the pieces, we found 18 fragments with an inventory number and 6 fragments not inventoried. With all the pieces found, the plaster cast of the portal is still incomplete. All inventoried fragments have their own inventory number, but as the portal is only one piece, we decided to keep only one inventory number, and each fragment is identified with a letter. On the slide, you can see the position of each fragment in the front and in the back of the portal. The pathology mapping for each fragment was done in the second phase of the intervention process, right after the historical search. In general, all the fragments were in part conservation status, representing several pathologies, where the most predominant one were the layer of organic and inorganic dirt left on the surface, fractures and cracks originated by the movement of the fragments, volumetric gaps,
alveolization and dripping marks of unknown residues, abrasion marks and scaling between plaster layers, lack of adhesion on the wooden structures, and traces of action of Chilophagous insects on the same wooden structures, such as production defects related to the mold filling and the degradation of the original work, meaning degradation that the original work in stone will already have.
The methods of examination and analysis started off with the naked eye. Is an exam that from the starting to the ending is one of the most important parts of all the examination, because from the moment that we take the pieces from the place where they are stored to all throughout the process of examination and taking out the pictures, there is the second step here, set in visible and low light. Those two allow to give us the visualization of surface textures and inscriptions, such as you can see here in the picture. Other method is the microscopic photography with visual light and UV light. The device is applied on the mobile phone, as you can see on the first two pictures. The other two on this side are the visible light and the UV light results taken with microscope. And on top, you can see partially. That given the environment that we were working on, we didn't have the access to a dark room. Therefore, we would use a dark cloth that we had to take the pictures of set pieces and casts to perform a dark room to be able to take these pictures that you're seeing here. Last but not least, the humidity measurement was done with an hygrometer. This device allowed us to read the humidity scale of the materials, such as the ones that we are here studying, the plaster and the wood of the structure of these casts. The limit of the values set in plaster are from 0.5 to 1%, and in wood from 15% to 20%. Here are other materials that is possible to use this device on, but we didn't need it.
Since all the fragments correspond to one piece of work, the cleaning of each fragment has to be uniform so that the clear reading of the total piece prevails. After the several photography registers, the register of pathologies, and the measuring of humidity that were spoken about before is done. In the intervention, all fragments were cleaned by mechanical cleaning. In some exceptions, where mechanical intervention was not sufficient, chemical cleaning was carried out. In case of fragments with cracks, gaps, and fractures, consolidation and gluing were also used. Mechanical cleaning is a technique that cleans and removes all inorganic dirt. It can be done with soft grease brushes to remove dirt from the piece with the help of vacuum cleaner to avoid deposition back on the object, or with a PVC-free rubber that removes dirt without risk of abrasion. After cleaning just one side, you can see the difference in the before and after mechanical cleaning. On the left is the before cleaning and after cleaning on the right.
During one of the mechanical cleaning process on the fragment, a faded red stain was observed on the surface that appeared to have been passed over with a white paint. After removing this layer of white paint with a surgical knife, a more intense stain of red pigmentation was found. The use of chemical cleaning is necessary in these cases where mechanical cleaning is unsuccessful. This process was carried out using manually produced cotton swabs in acetone. In this case, this fragment had dripping marks on the surface of the plaster and a chemical cleaning was performed once again. Here we can see the before, the halfway through, and the after the cleaning procedure.
The wood armature on the back of the fragments showed lack of adhesion to the plaster. So to correct this, the reinforcement of the structure was carried out. The procedure began with wetting both the wood armature and the plaster only in the places that needed reinforcement with acetone. This makes the new plaster that will be placed in the sections adhere better to the original plaster. The next step was to create strips of sisal that were dipped in plaster fixative and then wrapped around the wood armature and the original plaster, forming a cross and once dried, bonding the two materials back together. The consolidation of the fractures and the hair cracks was another procedure performed to restore the stability of the fragments. The procedure consisted in moistening the areas that had these pathologies with acetone using a syringe. The acetone doesn't damage the plaster because it dries very fast, which means that the time that this product is in contact with the plaster is very short. Then the plaster fixative was applied to the fractures or cracks with a syringe and the excess removed with the aid of our fingers or with the damp sponge. And here we have a before and after of this procedure.
The silicone mold was used to reconstruct a gap. The silicone has the consistency of a plasticine and once mixed with the catalyst is ready to use. It is placed with the fingers, pressing the silicone to mold itself to the surface we want. After the mold was ready, a little excess was cut so that it would fit into the gap. Once in its place, it was filled with cast using a syringe.
Other mold is the dental wax plate mold. It's used as a dentist tool, but it's also used in restoration of gaps and fractures. This method consists in heating the plate enough not to melt, but to mold it to the surface of a cast, or in this case, the same ornament, just in a different place. And after hardened, is placed over the gap and is filled in with plaster. And we can say that the results of this mold ain't exactly as we would hope them for, because it ain't like the silicone mold. That one can give you a lot of detail. This one doesn't allow us that much detail, and it's one of the unfortunate uses, characteristics of this mold. But being restoration, we can always just give it a few more details here and there, of course, allowing it to look as much as we would hope it to look like if the mold could take all of those details. And here we have the before and after a filling of a gap with said mold.
The piece represented here is identified by the inventory number FBAUL as 465M, and its major pathology was due to a node damage, which occurred between the years 2004 and 2021, having fractured into distinct parts. Due to the particularity of the shape, it was possible to identify the two distinct parts and put them back together, returning the reading to the fragment. After small areas of detachment were cleaned and consolidated, the consolidation of the two main parts was done from the front so as not to lose their correct orientation when the piece was turned over to being reinforced once more. The surface was moistened with acetone and the consolidation was done with plaster fixative. Cleaning the excess plaster of the surface was done with the help of moistened sponges. After making a cast on one of the fragments, the surface at the inclination spot had some imperfections in terms of volume. To improve the shape, it was necessary to start the leveling process. The first leveling started with the sculpting of the surface in order to achieve its homogeneity with the help of tacks, and the second leveling was carried out with the systems of sandpapers to complete the process of smoothing the surface. Here we can see some of the final fragments, the before and after. All the interventions made to each fragments always took in account the artist's original technique and materials. In addition to preserving and restoring the work, in this way, no information was removed from the piece for future interventions, thus helping to maintain the ideal of the artist. With this project, we intend to raise awareness and share importance of our work in the preservation, conservation, and restoration of sculpture heritage in poster of the Faculty of Fine Arts of the University of Lisbon for future generations. Here we can see some before and after, and thank you for listening to this presentation.